you have done some challenges that people look at even to this day that you did many, many years ago and still ask you about. There's a reason they
Yeah.
ask you about it. Like, what do you feel most people misunderstand when it comes to learning about, like, learning difficult
Oh,
things?
well, I mean, there's lots of things we could get into there. I think it's always a little bit funny for me for these challenges, because especially something like the MIT challenge, like people still ask me questions about it. But now this is over a decade ago. Like, I was a kid when I did that, and
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm a man with thinning hair and two small children at home now. So I'm like, I'm sort of talking about a different person who did that. I mean, I I am not. I'm still like, I can remember doing it, but at the same time, I think as those things recede into my past, I do try to be forward looking. Like, I never want to be ungrateful for the success that some of those things got me, and I am really grateful that people still find it and still find it exciting. But I'm also aware that, like, they were a product of that time period of my life and that way of thinking about it, and so I don't know whether I would approach things the same way if I were to go about them again. And it's not just like I did it wrong, but just that I'm in a different place in my life and different way of thinking about things. So, I mean, but both of those projects, because they were the year-long ones I did, they were, I don't know, they were just like such a fun, exciting part of my life. And I think that's the kind of thing that I would give as a recommendation to anyone who is, modestly clever and is not like crushed by obligations in their life. Use your 20s to do like weird things, because you have your whole life to just be like a ladder climbing conformist, but that there's a window in your life when you're sort of finished school, but you haven't gotten like really serious yet in a career, that
Mhm.
you can waste a year or two doing something that turns to not pan out, and it'll still be a positive life experience. Whereas for me right now, like, I feel like my life is in a different situation a little bit, that even if I wanted to, like, to just, okay, I'm going to drop everything and like learn MIT's, I'm going to learn their biology curriculum. There's just so much more weight of like, well, that's just super wasteful. Whereas that when I was 24, when I was doing it, it just felt very much like, well, whatever, right? Like, I can do this. It's fine. And so I think that would be my advice, is that there's sort of a time and place for taking advantage of those kind of ambitions. And so, someone who's young like yourself should really just, like, swing for the fences on weird stuff, because sometimes it'll pan out. And even when it doesn't, it'll still be a cool story.
I found travel is a big thing that has
Yeah.
really taught me a lot. And I'm in Hawaii now, but when I go back home, I was just speaking with my health coach, and I'm going to do a week in a Buddhist monastery and just
Nice.
experience that. Like, just like talking with you, listening to you, like the experiments that you do, I think are so powerful. Is there an experiment that you look back now and you wish you had done, or you feel it would really be helpful for a lot of people?
I mean, there's always projects that I, imagine undertaking, or I'd like to undertake. I don't know. Yeah, I can't think, because there's, like, in some ways there's just too many. There's like,
Yeah.
if you were to ask me like, oh, what things would I like to learn? Like, well, I don't know. I had ideas about, after the MIT challenge, I was thinking, oh, maybe it would be nice to follow that up with, like, being a professional software developer. Like, in some ways that project was kind of half complete, because I did all this academic training, but then I didn't like go out in the world and like build software. Or, now I'm like following a lot of the stuff that's happening in AI and machine learning. And, part of me is just sort of like, oh man, I could have been, doing that, because 10 years ago I was starting to learn those things. And if I had like just gone all in and in that stuff, then I would have been maybe well situated to be where these things are now. But instead I chose this path in life. And so I think there's always those like paths not taken. I mean, even for myself, when I did the year without English, where we were learning the languages, I had kind of in my head, oh, I might keep doing this, not like always, but just like I might do some more extended stays and live in other places and learn the language. And it was sort of like right around that time that I started dating my now wife.
Mm.
And it just became kind of like, well, we're just started dating. I don't want to be like, okay, I'm going to go run off to this place and speak this language that no one speaks
Right.
here. So I just think, in life, you kind of, I think my broad takeaway, I guess, from my doing my experiences is not that you can't do these things later, because you certainly can do things like this, but that there is a season in your life where when you're young, where, you know, sometimes it can feel like, oh, I'm not successful yet. I don't have a lot of like, people don't respect me or esteem me, or like, you know, you want these things, these accomplishments, you want to achieve something in your life or to be successful or to do these kind of things, but you also don't realize that you have this incredible freedom. And so if you just have the gutsiness to just sort of do some of these things, like, I mean, those can end up being some of those experiences for your life that are going to be truly defining. And so starting a business, you know, going to live in another country, learning another language, you know, spending 6 months on some career pursuit that's probably not going to work out, but you're doing it anyways. I mean, you got to pay the bills. You got to, like, I don't want to be dismissive to anyone who feels like they have constraints that prevent them from doing anything. But I do think there's a kind of a moment in your life where, especially if you live in a developed country, I mean, your living expenses are low, you have very few responsibilities. You know, it really just, I think if you have the confidence to do it, you can probably do a lot of those things. And so take advantage of those, I think would be my advice.